us through what we heard at the briefing of the Defense Ministry today.
Well, it was powerful and to the point. One of the military chiefs that held the briefing actually said that the Turkish president and his family were in on the whole oil smuggling operation. Let's take a listen.
The criminal trade of Islamic State oil involves Turkey's political elite, including President Erdogan and his family.
Well, that again linking into President Putin's earlier words, saying that Turkey was backing, indirectly, directly, sponsoring, helping ISIS, terrorists, Al-Qaeda in Syria. I think we also have that grab as well.
We have every reason to believe that the decision to shoot down our bomber was dictated by a desire to ensure the security of those delivery routes to Turkey, exactly to the ports where oil is loaded onto tankers. And protecting the Turkmen is only a pretext. A broad-based anti-terrorism coalition cannot be achieved as long as some continue to use terrorist organizations to reach their short-term political goals.
And this time they came up with proof. They offered satellite images, aerial surveillance images of 3 smuggling routes for Syrian oil into Turkey. Oil that is then shipped out to third party countries where the oil is refined. And here again, up to what was it, 200,000 barrels of oil a day, every single day.
Massive amount. And of course, no wonder. I mean, they're getting so much money. That's $2 million daily. Just think about that.
It varies from $3 million, and now apparently because of the Russian Air Force's pressure, airstrikes on oil infrastructure, that's
the revenue shrank.
Fallen to 1.5 million. But again, it goes to show that Turkey, despite saying other things, has been turning a blind eye to this, and in some cases, if this is true, then actively helping and profiting from ISIS, Al-Qaeda oil smuggling operations.
Türkiye olarak terörle mücadeleye ilişkin işbirliğinin geliştirilmesi konusundaki kararlılığımızın daha güçlü bir şekilde ifade edilmesi gerektiğini
Turkish warplanes went on the attack Monday, but instead of pounding ISIL positions in Syria, the Turks attacked Kurdish fighters in Turkey.
What the? So while over in Kobani, we've been bombing ISIS to help the Kurds. Our good friend Turkey has at the same time, just a few miles away, been bombing Kurds, thereby helping ISIS.
Turkey has become the destination for the oil, which has been captured by the ISIL army.
Well, also during the briefing, we heard that Turkish elite is involved in this. And, well, of course, now the ball, as we have discussed previously, is in Turkey's court, is in the court of international media and international community. You know, how to deal with all that information that was revealed today at this briefing.
Well, it's, as I said, it's up to journalists to
course.
head out to these towns, to these border crossings where all this oil smuggling is taking place, where hundreds of trucks are lined up, freely crossing with oil from Syria into Turkey, where it is then sold off. They're using, the Russian Air Force says, 8,500 oil tankers, trucks transporting oil. Obviously, that is an enormous amount. You know, going through all of that with airstrikes on mobile targets, it's not going to work. You know, Turkey has to stop, to close the borders, has to stop this flow of traffic. 3 border crossings, again, in the north.
3 major routes.
Yeah, northwest, central, and northeast on the border with Iraq. But it isn't only oil that they're allowing through. From the other side, from Turkey into Syria, they're allowing jihadists, they're allowing weapons. 2,000 fighters have joined Al-Qaeda and ISIS from Turkey just recently. 120 tons of ammunition, 250 vehicles. Does that sound like Turkey's at war with the Islamic State?
Yeah, but you know, it's also incredible that this has been going on unnoticed, so to speak, for quite a long period of time. Well, Murad, do stay with us here in the studio. We can now cross to Uzi Arad, who's a former advisor to Israel's President Benjamin Netanyahu. Hello there, sir. I hope we do have you here with us on RT International. Can you hear us? Yes, good to have you here with us.
Yes, hello.
I hope you have had a chance to hear some of the highlights from the Russian Defense Ministry. Now, given the revelations, the information that we got from there, do you think there's any chance that Ankara doesn't know about the illegal smuggling of terrorist oil? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that Turkey is acting irresponsibly in this area as well. And it is unfortunate that the game that it is playing in Syria and that its essential support to Daesh is a destabilizing element which should be ended. But for the moment, it is very, very irresponsible, to say the least.
Well, you know, President Erdogan earlier said that he will resign if the claims of Turkey smuggling ISIL oil are true. So that's a pretty strong statement there. What was it? Was it sort of a bravado for the media, or do you think he will actually follow through on what he said? And another question here, is the evidence provided enough for him?
Frankly, I don't know. You know, the behavior of over there is sometimes erratic and sometimes emotional and always highly politicized. So, frankly, I cannot predict what will be next, except that this support for the movement of terrorists through its territory, of supplies, these purchases, and other things done in that area are bad, and I hope that there would be enough pressure that would put an end to it one way or another.
Well, Russia's defense ministry also provided evidence that the U.S.-led coalition is not doing enough to stem the flow of ISIL oil. In your opinion, will this briefing change anything at all?
What will change if this supply of oil would stop?
Well, basically, will there be more reaction from American and the U.S.-led coalition? Because earlier we all heard that they are fighting ISIL there, but you know the evidence shows that there hasn't been done much to stop the oil flows. So, do you think the information that we heard today from the Russian Defense Ministry will be a game changer in any way?
Well, you know, clearly there has been international commotion in the last week or two coming from a number of members of the coalition that is claiming to be fighting Daesh. And there are a series of coordination and meetings among leaders and senior ministers to coordinate the action. And clearly there would be some kind of increase in the intensity and the presence of the fighting forces committed by members of this alliance. But will that suffice? Will there be the determination to invest in this effort all the resources that are needed to essentially suppress and ultimately put an end to this brutal political extremist group? I'm not sure. It has to be seen. Russia is playing a significant role in this domain, and I trust that the impetus given by Russia would be heard.
Well, let's now talk a little bit about the Turkish-Syria border. They earlier discussed the issue with our correspondent, Murat Gizdiyev, who's with me in the studio, that he has seen the border with his very own eyes there, and it didn't seem to be very protected to him. And as we know, many fighters hoping to join the terrorists enter Syria through the Turkish border. The question is, I think, on everyone's lips here, why hasn't it been sealed off?
I don't know the reasons for this shortfall in terms of efforts to take all necessary action to put an end to either the infiltration of terrorists or to the movement of oil or to the activities of Daesh here and there. There has been, in a way, a failure of determination, investment and resources, and ultimately leadership. Maybe because of fatigue felt in certain societies and a reluctance to put in place all that is necessary. But one thing is clear. The role that Turkey is playing in this area is in many ways destructive, and it is affecting European security. It is affecting its neighbors. Ultimately, it's affecting its own society. So that is now what is being addressed. Now, as for the border incident, the shooting down of the airplane, this is a demonstration of what to me is clear, a reckless and irresponsible Turkish behavior. Because no matter how you feel about the entry of aircraft into your airspace, right or wrong, there are other means to which one can express one's displeasure. But to shoot with determination to kill and destroy was crossing a threshold which is unwarranted at all, is not necessary, and is highly dangerous. And clearly the Turkish leadership is aware that that was a mistake. But then the very act that it was done is causing much concern, because, as I said, this is only one manifestation of other types of Turkish behavior which is not consistent with the way it should act. And clearly the Russian displeasure, as expressed through the measures that it took, are, to my mind, legitimate, and I hope that the message sinks in.
Right, Mr. Arad, we would like you to stand by because we will return to you a little later. That was Uzi Arad with us, former head of research at Mossad and the ex-advisor for President Netanyahu. We will talk to you a little later in the program, as I just promised. But in the meantime, we can cross to our correspondent, Harry Fier, who is in Istanbul, in Turkey, as accusations continue to mount against the Turkish President Erdogan. Well, Harry, good to have you here in the program. So Erdogan has said earlier he will resign if there is hard evidence supporting claims that Turkey is buying ISIL oil. Does he mean it?
Well, indeed, these are explosive accusations, not just against the President of the Republic, but apparently his family members too, and the political elite here, that they have been dealing with ISIL in terms of oil trade, and that also that Turkey has been sending mercenaries and weapons to fight in Syria. But in a sense, although the apparently vivid evidence being presented today is new, these sorts of general accusations like this are not new here in Turkey and have been long time denied by Erdogan and Turkish officials. Indeed, just on Saturday we saw part of a crackdown here on critical press that have been reporting these sorts of accusations in the past. We heard today that 2 senior journalists from a respected Turkish newspaper will now spend a month in pre-trial detention ahead of a trial in which they could be sentenced to 45 years in prison for apparently exposing arms smuggling to Syria groups. So you can see here that this has been going on for a while in a very tense political and unfree media climate here in Turkey. But after the downing of the Russian warplane last week, there has been a real increase in heat on Erdogan to deal with this question of Turkey's strategy, if you want to call it that, towards Syria. And indeed, he threw down the gauntlet on Monday while he was in Europe, saying that if evidence were provided that Turkey had been buying oil from terrorists, that he would step down and leave office. We're not today expecting Erdogan to do that, and indeed we still have yet to hear any official reaction from his office or from Turkish officials in general. But as the Deputy Defense Minister in Russia today said, in his words, President Erdogan wouldn't resign even if he had stolen oil smeared all over his face. And indeed, the accusations are explosive, and Ankara is surely very carefully considering its reaction. The accusations are here essentially that a NATO member, a wannabe EU bloc member, has been thieving oil from its war-ravaged neighbour, using those funds to enrich itself and also support terror groups over the border.
Right, Harry, thanks so much for bringing us this update. Harry Fear there from Istanbul. And we'll be crossing back to you for more, of course, throughout the day to hear maybe some reaction from Turkey on the revelations from the briefing of Russia's defense ministry. Well, reporting on shady connections between Ankara and ISIL has landed some members of the press in prison on a Tuesday. Reporters Without Borders called on the Turkish government to free two opposition journalists for releasing information on shipments of arms from Turkey to jihadists in Syria.
Bu haberi özel haber olarak yapan kişi de öyle zannediyorum ki bunun bedelini ağır ödeyecek. Öyle bırakmam onu.
The situation of press freedom in Turkey is worse and worse. We have to notice that more and more journalists are put in jail, and it's the case for Can Dündar and Erdem Gül's journalists of Cumhuriyet, and they were put in jail for political reasons.
We have to admit and see the ignorance, the negligence of the international community that has played a very significant role.
Now, over 7,000 people have signed a petition launched by Reporters Without Borders demanding President Erdogan releases the journalist. The Turkish leader is accused of personally meddling in the case and ordering a media crackdown in Turkey. And Harrison from the Freedom to Write program believes the government will continue its crackdown on journalists if similar reports surface.
They've basically been charged just for doing their work as journalists, for releasing footage which appears to show that the Turkish state has been involved in supplying weapons to militants in Syria. And of course, that's something which the Turkish public has every right to know what their government's doing in a conflict that's so close to home. So we believe there's really no basis to the charges against these journalists. At the moment, the trajectory for press freedom is really looking very poor, and we're seeing more and more crackdowns. Since the summer, there have been crackdowns on journalists reporting in the southeast on Kurdish issues and things to do with the Syria conflict. So there is a risk, of course, that if journalists continue, that others will also face a similar risk.
Well, I just want to remind some of the viewers maybe just joining us here on RT International that earlier we watched and listened to the briefing from Russia's defense ministry, where Russia's defense ministry, in fact, produced the proof of oil smuggling into Turkey through the border. And with me here in the studio is Murad Gazdiev, with whom we've been watching this and discussing earlier. So, Murad, give us some of the highlights, some of the things that strike you as the most important during the briefing.
Well, it was strong stuff from the start to the end. They accused the Turkish president, his family, Turkish elites, of being in on this oil smuggling operation, of perhaps even profiting from it. We also heard about 3 major smuggling routes for terrorists to smuggle oil out of Syria and into Turkey, where it is then shipped off, sold to third countries. And they offered satellite images, they offered maps of these routes, as well as photographs of hundreds of vehicles, trucks, some of which they say were masqueraded as something else entirely, that ship that transport this oil from Syria into Turkey. So strong accusations immediately in the aftermath of President Erdogan of Turkey demanding proof of his country's role in all of this. You know, this is bound to increase the pressure on Turkey to shut this border, something they haven't done since the Islamic State appeared, since Islamic ISIS, Nusra Front, Al-Qaeda in Syria. They're all still free to move, and the United States, NATO ally, United States, which has actively been bombing the Islamic State, is now calling, after a year, more than a year, now calling on Turkey to shut this border.
It's as much in the interest of Turkey to close off the movement of illegally transported oil or to close off the passage of foreign fighters in one direction or another, and I'm confident Turkey understands how important it's going to be.
Hello and welcome to Crosstalk, where all things are considered. I'm Peter Lavelle. Crime